Easter Sunday and BTC trading at 84K. So that's been relatively flat. But what we have seen so far this weekend is a couple of these AI tokens really ripping and some other alts as well doing pretty well. But is it time for some short-term shorts on these things? Is it time to be looking for some big longs later on? And obviously, we know there's a massive move coming on BTC, guys. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about what you're going to look for leading into tomorrow. So a massive show here tonight. Let's get right into it. And remember, as always, hit that like, hit the bell, and hit the subscribe. And you can normally find me on Banter Plus. And tonight I'm on the main channel. So come over to Banter Plus if you're enjoying this type of trading content Monday to Friday. I've got James in the house. Happy Easter, sir. And,
Happy Easter.
A little bit of a quiet, newsy weekend, but we're going to cover a couple of things here. But what we did see this weekend was things like Tao ripping 12% at the moment, the last 24 hours, Fetch 8% up, Render cooking as well. All these AI tokens really doing well. And my big Sui long that I took a massive bet on this weekend, pretty much flat at the moment. So quite disappointing. And it's been one of those weekends where you had to be in select tokens that have been firing. So we're going to tackle a lot of those because I've started a Tao short. And my question is, am I about to get rinsed? Is everybody trying to short this thing? And are we going to squeeze? So we're going to talk about that setup as well. And then I've got other setups for you guys on tons of tokens. So let's jump into BTC. Let's just get a feel for where we are. And if anybody's been trying to trade BTC lately, well, it's been an absolute misery for a week, I would say, give or take. Yeah, no, what is this? Let's 12th of April. It's been a bit of a mess. Look at that chop there on BTC. So we know all the fun has been in the altcoins. So what do we know when we get this type of chop in BTC? Well, we know that we're getting tons of shorts building up to the upside. We're getting tons of longs building up down there to the downside. And we know it's just a matter of time now before we get a massive move on Bitcoin. The question is it going to be a false move first? And then are they going to send us in the next direction? So that is pretty much my game plan at the moment in terms of BTC. So what I'm looking for now in the next 24 hours is either a drop down into this 81,900 region. That kind of makes sense to me there. A big clean out for the liquidity, a little bit lower down, 79K. And you guys might notice this hasn't actually changed in the last couple of days. These levels, I mean, this chart has been pretty much the same for the last week or so. Then in terms of upside, look at this. We've got an easy grab here at about 86. So if they do pump us into that zone, that could be a nice rejection zone. And then I've got the big one for me. And this is the 200-day MA. This is a wick fill. This is my VWAP from the highs. This is my 100-day MA in that region. So this whole box for me is a big trouble zone on BTC. So any pumps into that type of region, for me personally, going to be a little bit edgy. If we start pumping into that, I'll be definitely concerned on some of the alts. If the alts are at resistance at the same time and we see BTC pushing into something like that, my gut feel is that we're going to get some kind of rejection there. So we're going to have to play the game. Draco likes 79K. Look, I like the look of it. It's a very basic TA region, the 79K. It's a 618 foot that we're looking for, just a little dip into that zone, also grab some of that. So that does make sense to me, Draco. I actually agree, with that type of level. Now, in terms of the liquidation heat map, this is the 1 week, and this is also telling us a story. It's telling us a lot of indecision here, and you can see between the bulls and the bears, look at the shorts to the upside. Look at all the liquidations here to the upside. If the market makers want to push things higher, there's a big juicy zone here all the way up to 88K, and then a little bit lower down. Look at this, a nice band all the way down to 82K even on the 1 week liquidation heat map. Now you can obviously look at this thing on a monthly as well, and you're going to see some big levels at about 90K, and you can obviously look at it 24 hours, and that always gets a little bit spicy as well. So guys, I am expecting a little bit of fun and games here. So in terms of direction, we're going to have to wait for the move, and then we're going to have to decide, is it a false move up or is it a false move down? How we are going to play that. So we got to be vigilant with what is going to happen. And remember, we're in a very tweet-based period at the moment. We're getting tariff news and things like that coming out of nowhere, coming out of Trump, and it's moving the markets up and down literally on a tweet. So things are definitely a little bit spicy at the moment. Kevin says pumps from here or from the market makers. Yeah, I mean, not incorrect, I don't think. So let's go. There's not much going on in the news on this Easter weekend, but just taking a look at 24-hour liquidations, $162 million. I don't think the guys are really trading this weekend. These are rookie numbers again. $162 million in liquidations in the last 24 hours. We like to pump up those numbers. Then we know the market is moving. Then we know there's tons of excitement out there. And then who's faced with this? Anybody celebrating Easter? Who had to deal with this today from the uncles and the aunts? There's my Mr. Investor. How are your little coins doing? Are you a millionaire yet? And they all know. They pretend they don't know what's happening in the crypto market, but they do. They know exactly what is going on. So let me know in the chats who's been faced with that. I think we've all at some point had to deal with that, and that's thanks to Meme Master there. So follow Meme Master at MemeMaster08 on X. Now let's talk about historical Bitcoin prices on this Easter day. So quite interesting. You know, if you feel like things are tough out there, well, look at this. We gradually just creeping up. This time 84,400. This time last year 63.8. 2023, who even remembers that? 28,800. So things are gradually going up, and definitely the HODL gang is definitely enjoying their Bitcoin at the moment. Now, let's get into the main news stuff. And it's obviously all about Uncle Donald at the moment. And yeah, look, I'm going to eliminate capital gains. You mean the capital gains taxes, right? Well, anybody who's enjoying the last couple of weeks in the markets, well, yeah, you might not be very pleased with what has been going on. So what we do know is from day to day, we need to be reactive, and there's lots of news going on with the terrorist situation. We know the big one out there is the China news. Now, we know a lot of the other countries are relenting or giving in, and Trump is announcing all sorts of deals and things like that. But the Chinese one is hanging over our heads, and I think the market is really waiting for some kind of resolution to this Chinese situation. So Marty Party telling us China's ambassador to the US urges an end to the trade war and affirms Beijing's readiness to respond. Now, this is after Donald told them the other day they must call him, and then they refused to call him, and then he said he's going to make a deal. Then he said he doesn't know if they're going to make a deal, and then they upped the tariffs. So guys, it's an absolute mess there at the moment, but that I suppose is quite a good sign. You know, the Chinese are coming forward there. And then we see a little bit of news out of Tokyo. They're talking about easing rules for American car imports. Zero Hit says this is big. I don't know. Is it big for the Japanese? They got tons of great cars. You know, I don't know. Do they need these American cars at the moment? Anyway, so Zero Hit thinks that is quite big. And France says the US dollar would lose credibility if President Trump pushes out Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Now, that's been another talking point this week where we've had Trump basically trying to say, you know, if he wants to, he can wield his influence and Powell can resign and things like that. Now, that is obviously very dangerous for the US if the president can control the Fed chair like that. People aren't going to be happy, and I suspect that is going to be a big problem for the markets as well if that does happen. I personally can't see it happening, but, you know, yeah, anything is possible. Now, in terms of this week, I think we've got quite a big week ahead of us. Now, the US markets are actually open tomorrow, but the European markets, I believe, are closed, and I think Asia is open as well. So we're going to have just a quiet period in the middle of the day for us, for guys in my time. But in terms of the US, that thing is cooking. And Party says, my workshops are amazing. Nice, bro. Well, I've got another workshop tomorrow, Party. We're going to talk about that as well. There's another workshop coming in hot for you guys. Okay, so key events this week. What am I personally interested in this week? Well, number one, you guys know I've been trading a bit of stocks here, and I'm going to talk about a couple of these. So Tesla is one of them. I want to talk about that. The earnings are coming on Tuesday. Then point number 9, Google as well. Earnings are coming on Thursday. I want to talk about that chart. There are possible longs or shorts brewing there for us on both of these. And then we've got jobless claims. That's generally a market mover as well. Services, manufacturing, PMI, it is a market mover. But I think the market is kind of getting a little bit numb to, you know, those types of side events when the main event is obviously this tariff and the Chinese situation with Donald and all these things. So once that is sorted out, then I think we'll get better responses out of those type of headlines and those types of news events. So let's jump into the S&P and just see where we are. So no major changes here after our second week after that pump that we had. So I think it was normal for us to expect some kind of sideways on the markets, and quite nice that it hasn't absolutely capitulated here and has held these levels. So that is a positive sign for us. The market almost hanging around, just waiting for some good news before they can before they can start pushing this one a little bit higher. So nice to see a little bit of consolidation. I think that was to be expected in terms of past results after a pump like that. And then let's look at Tesla. So this is a big one for us. Earnings coming on Tuesday, and there's two big zones that I'm super interested in. Now, the key here for me is if we want to trade these earnings events, you generally want to look for a pump that you can short into earnings, or you want to look for a sell-off into earnings that you can buy. So generally, if you get a big move on these stocks leading into these news events, it's typically a buy the event or sell the event situation. So I've got two big zones here for you guys on Tesla. The first one for me is this 213 region, 214, anywhere in that type of zone. If we drip into that leading into Tuesday, then I would say it's probably a good idea to start looking for some longs. And then if we start pumping into 270 on Tuesday, look at that. If we start pushing up this week into that type of zone, into Tesla earnings, I would expect there's a possibility that we're going to get some kind of sneaky short on this guy at about 270. So the reason I like the 270, it's a 618, it's a horizontal, it's the 50-day MA, it's the 200-day MA as well. So we know that's a big resistance zone for us, and especially these stocks, they love a 200-day moving average. So got my eyes on that one now as well for Tesla. Looking forward to that if we can get that one going. And then Google as well. We got the Google earnings coming out on Thursday. This could be an interesting one as well. So if we do get a pump in the market for Google, what are we looking at? Typical zone here, 166 to about 173. That sort of box for me makes a lot of sense. So if we pump hard this week into that zone, I'm expecting some kind of short opportunity on Google. And if we drop first leading into Thursday, if we start falling over, guys, typical zones on the day, if we're sitting about 145 on that day, I would say looking for longs there. If we're sitting at about 130 on that day, I would say looking for longs. So I'll guide you through this as we go during the week. So make sure you are tuned into Banter Plus. And we're going to update these stocks for you leading into these earnings results. We're going to try and grab one of these entries here. And remember, you can trade all of these stocks with me on BTCC. So all you need to do is go into the show description and click on more, and you will find BTCC is there. And that's where we're trading our stocks. We're sending crypto to BTCC, and we're going to trade things like Microsoft, Google, Tesla, and all those things. You can also trade gold and the S&P as well. So everything that I talk about, guys, is sitting under the show description for you. Just go into more and you can look at the show description. All these things are here, including my accelerator course, which I'll touch on a little bit later on. Now, I'm also running a poll at the moment here, okay? And let's see, it's a Sunday sentiment check. And 62% are bullish on a Sunday and 37% are bearish. Now, James, I must say, I'm actually feeling a little bit bullish altcoins at the moment here. I'm liking the look of some of these alts, and I don't know, how are you feeling? Are you still bullish? Where are you?
Well, it's Sunday, first of all, right? And it's Easter weekend. I don't know. I never have a good feeling coming into Sunday night Asia Open, right? If we get a pump, I think it's just a short.
So, yeah, look, very good point, guys. So we're going to talk about this Bitcoin chart now. We're going to talk about what happens with a pump. But yeah, what I'm expecting is any false move now. I'm expecting a big move on BTC in the next 24 hours. There's going to be some kind of announcement, some kind of headline again. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be a false one that we can deal with, and we'll be able to tackle it. Red Kid says, red day or green day, hit the like button. I concur, sir. Okay, let's see. Wait, we got that.
Like Michael Jackson, just beat it.
There we go. Okay, let's go. Trader Spot says M2 Global. Is he talking about the global money supply that is cooking at the moment? Another thing that has been cooking at the moment, is it time for this guy to fall over? I did touch on this one on Friday when I covered that. Gold is now outperforming the S&P over the last 20 years, dividends included. Can you believe that? I mean, it's hard to believe that that is actually happening at the moment. And Zolani says, same old James bullish or what? Not happy, eh? We're waiting for James to be super bullish here. And okay, so gold, guys, I'm getting bearish on gold. I think we are super, super close to a reversal, it's literally going to be a macro shift here. There's going to be some kind of trade arrangement or some kind of deal done with China. There's going to be an announcement, and for me, gold is going to start rolling over. I think we are getting very close here, and keeping it super simple here, I've got some bearish divergence forming here. We've got the price going higher. We got the oscillator turning down lower highs here, and gold for me on the daily looking like we're getting close to a reversal. It just feels like it's one tweet away from some kind of dump here, and it could be a 5 or 10%, but we are getting close in my view. And according to Dupes, this was last week, and I'm covering this one again. 170,000 BTC are on the move from a 3 to 6 month holder cohort. Okay, a group known for timing major shifts. Historically, green boxes are explosive upside, red boxes are painful drops in the market. Every time the cohort moves, Bitcoin reacts. So we are here. Okay, we are at this moment now where we're expecting the move, and it's interesting that it's come when we've had a week of Bitcoin floating around $84,000, and these longs and these shorts are gearing up both sides. And for me, there's some kind of explosive move coming. I don't think this has anything to do with it, but according to 𝗨𝗱𝗱𝗆, Michael Saylor is reportedly planning to buy another 2 billion worth of BTC. Now, I don't know if that's going to affect things. And Sorab says, are we still short AVAX? Yes, sir.
Have you ever noticed every time Sailor buys, we dump? That's not necessarily a good thing. If you track that and watch every single buy, everybody's bullish as hell and the whole market dumps.
He drives it up when he's buying, I guess, and then and then it all capitulates. Okay, so yes, the AVAX was still in the zone, sir. Okay, so we are good there on AVAX. Let's finish BTC on the daily. This has been my plan for the last week or two, and still expecting something along these lines. So this is the BTC daily chart, and what I'm expecting is a big pump into that zone. I'm looking for a rejection in that area. If the first move is to the upside, guys, I would say we're looking for a rejection. Now, what if the first move is to the downside? Well, I've been looking at this one today, and if we get that first dip to the downside, let's say the first move is a move down, what I'm looking at is a possible right shoulder here on BTC. Wouldn't that be nice and spicy around the 77, 78K zone? A little right shoulder, inverse head and shoulders there, get everyone out, panic down, and then get some of those buys. So look out on the daily chart. Looks interesting to me. Even that 79K zone, that simple 79K level here. Look at that. That 618 could come into play for us. It's starting to look interesting there. Okay, so a move to the downside, 79 could be a banger buy if we pump up to the upside first, possibly selling in that area, guys. I'd be super careful in that zone, 88 to 90K. It looks like a dangerous area for me. Okay, so play safe. Now, let's talk about altcoins. And is it altcoin season? Nope. According to this chart, it is still Bitcoin season, and it's been Bitcoin season since the 3rd of March. So nearly 2 months of Bitcoin season here in the downside. And at some point, this thing starts moving up. Now, you'll remember historically when this chart starts pushing higher, look at this. From 17th of October, we started pushing up. Where was the Trump pump? Look at that there. Bang, bang, bang. And we had a nice move to the upside. So when this thing starts reclaiming, say, 25, it starts getting super interesting with some of these alts. And I think it is time to pay attention. And we have noticed almost like a narrative here, the AI narrative that has started moving this weekend. What is going to come next? Is it going to be the layer ones firing off? Are we going to have another explosive meme run coming next? But I think things are teeing up a little bit nicely here if we can start just pushing higher on this guy, this altcoin season index. Okay, now buy altcoins, they said they'll have better returns, they said. Okay, now this is the key. This is actually when you are supposed to be buying your altcoins. When something like this has dropped into that type of region and you can see some kind of reversal, that is actually the time when you start buying the altcoins. Okay, so the Honda, Toyota, Audi at the bottom here, whatever we're going to call this, a howdy or whatever at the bottom, will have its time. Okay, it will have its turn again at some point. So just hang in there. And dominance is giving us the clues. Bitcoin dominance, guys. Look at this thing. For the first time in a very long time, this dominance is actually turning bearish. Now, why is that interesting? Well, remember, dominance turning bearish is actually positive for altcoins. As long as dominance is trending down, then these alts at least have a chance that something is going to happen. So that's a nice bearish print for me. Look at our oscillator, bearish divergence. We've got the blue dot reversal print. There's multiple reasons why this thing could be rolling over. And taking a closer look at this dominance chart, you can see this thing responds really nicely to simple basic levels, and this can really help you with some of your trading ideas. Look at this. We've dropped into a support region, and that is typically where you get a rejection on altcoins. So you guys might have noticed 24 hours ago, we had a beautiful pump on a lot of the altcoins. What did we do? We dropped into a support zone on dominance, and the alts rejected, okay? And they started falling over, and dominance bounces again. So what we want to see as altcoin traders, as long as dominance is trending down, we are happy. So we can just let this thing drift lower down, and we should get a nice move on the altcoins. Now, what does that tell me on altcoins? That kind of says to me, we need to keep looking for higher lows. So we can get pullbacks on these altcoins, and we're going to look for a higher low bounce. And then we're going to just plan accordingly on some of those. And if that dominance is trending down, then we're going to get some great buys on some of these altcoins. Okay, so dominance sorted out. Remember, guys, all of these charts that you see here, they go straight into Chart Hackers directly after the show. So you don't have to panic and make notes. If you're on Chart Hackers, all those charts are going to be in there waiting for you after the show. Okay, so don't panic. If you are in Hackers, you've got access to all of these things. Okay, BTC, you've got the levels. You know what we're looking for over there. Now, I'm skipping ETH today. I can't for the life of me talk about ETH again until Monday or Tuesday. Okay, James, I'm having a break from ETH. I'm retiring from ETH. So, okay, let's talk current situation with altcoins. Now, what I'm going to show you, okay, is a selection of long setups. I'm going to show you a selection of short setups. What I am picking up after a pump this weekend is things like bearish divergence on 4-hour time frame, on 2-hour time frame, and that typically tells us in normal conditions that things are getting tired and they might want to start reversing. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to reverse you to zero. Sometimes it just means a bit of consolidation on some of the alts. Sometimes it means a drop to the downside, and sometimes these things can keep on ripping. Okay, so I'm going to give you a full spectrum here as to what we've got. Now, Chamburn, this is so annoying, bro. Okay, so Tao and 𝗠𝗏. I mean, this is the story of a leverage trader. Okay, so I mean, I could have taken a bet this weekend, leading into this weekend, on just about any token. It was literally pick your favorite token, and I've had like a really good, a couple of great trades with 𝗠𝗏. So I bet heavily on 𝗠𝗏. Okay, I really backed 𝗠𝗏 for a move this weekend. What happens? Tower rips, render rips, fucking everything else rips, 𝗠𝗏 flat the whole weekend. Okay, I mean, it's actually a little bit of pain out there, and well, I'm going to show you my pain. Okay, let's go. 𝗀. This is 𝗀 on the 8-hour. So we looked at this one on my show on Friday. There's a couple of things going on here for 𝗀. So first things first, let's talk about some levels to the upside. Number one, I do have an upside zone here on 𝗀, which is easily obtainable, 147 to 152. That makes a lot of sense to me as an upside move, okay? 147 to 152. Then I've got another big move here on 𝗀. If there is market momentum this week, I do expect that to get taken out pretty quickly, and that'll take us to 170 to 180. So that's a banger zone up there. So anybody sitting long, if you're super comfortable in 𝗀, these are your potential upside targets here for this ride. Now, there's a couple of things that can happen in the short term. So when we're tracking all of these things, we obviously pay attention to momentum and those types of things. And one of the things that is a little bit of a bother to me is this 8-hour. Okay, you can see there's a little bit of reversal coming on the 8-hour. We've got double bearish divergence print. We do have these reversal signs as well, and things are indicating that there's a chance that 𝗀 might want to have a breather. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go to zero, but if we do get this oscillator rolling over, what that typically means is 𝗀 is potentially going to lose this existing rising trend. You can see a beautiful uptrend that we're in at the moment. If that starts playing out, you might see 𝗀 dip down into, say, 130, that type of region, then get some kind of false bounce, and then make its way a little bit lower. Now, the most bullish area for me, I would say, is going to be around 124, 120 for 𝗀, making a lot of sense. Then a little bit lower down, I've got 113. So what you need to do today is just track this rising trend on 𝗀. There's a chance if we start closing under this rising trend here on 𝗀, it could be short-term bearish. Now, short-term bearish could be a day or 3. It could be 24 hours, for example, on 𝗀. So for me, I would look for that dip down into 129, look for the bounce, and then ultimately we want to look for these longs 124 to 120. Now, that is just typically using our exhaustion oscillator here. That's telling us we are getting a little bit tired. Now, if it does go for one more push, I would be super cautious if there is another push on Sol, I would say you really want to lock your eyes on this 147 to 152 zone. I would say if it doesn't fall over here today, I would say typically you're going to look for some kind of consolidation and a fall over in that region to the upside, and that is going to tie in very nicely with that oscillator as well. So just play safe on Sol. I am sitting in a Sol long, and I've got a short teed up here ready to go. Okay, you can see I've got a Sol long here, $84,000 long, and no reason to close. My average entry is 126. And obviously, I'm not trying to hold this thing, making an assumption that we're going to have a higher low. And if we have a short-term bullish pullback, we're going to be able to try and grow the size. Here's my 𝗬𝗎 position, absolute ball breaker. Like, I've had to cut some of this thing. I've sat the entire weekend. This was probably $120,000 in size at one point. I've had to cut it here because it hasn't been going my way. I was waiting for a 𝗬𝗎 pump this whole weekend, and it just hasn't done anything. And there's a 𝗬𝗨 short as well. And I'm going to take you through the details of this 𝗬𝗨 short and just give you an explanation as to what I'm looking for. Now, remember, guys, if you're trading on LBank with me, you get to participate in my private community competition here on LBank. So all you need to do is sign up with a link in the show description below and make sure you're trading either on a Chart Hackers LBank link or a show LBank link, and you can join my competition. Just click register to participate, and then at the bottom here you can see trading ranks. You're getting paid $3,000 real cash for coming first. The person who comes fifth is getting $1,000. It's cash back. It's real money that gets deposited in your spot account. You can literally draw it. It's not a futures bonus. So if you want to join me on this LBank competition, sign up. Just go into the show description and click on more there, and you'll see everything is here waiting for you guys. Okay, let's go. Let's talk 𝗬𝗎. This thing is causing me tons of pain. Now, we see a lot of bullish headlines on 𝗬𝗎 all the time. 𝗬𝗎 surpasses 150 million total accounts, up 7% in the last 7 days. James, I don't know. Is it bots opening all this shit? I never understand how all this stuff works. I mean, they're always showing the activity on these ecosystems and all these things. And yeah, we're up 7%, but the price is doing nothing. Okay, the price feels like it's rinsing me at the moment. So in terms of 𝗬𝗎, what is my game plan here? So you can see I'm in quite a big position. And obviously, I don't want to sit in this thing and take a 10% drawdown. That's going to be ridiculous. So what we're going to do, we're either going to start cutting as this thing's dropping lower, or we're going to start banging out some head shorts on this thing if it starts losing key levels. So for me, the first one is going to be the low, 2.017. If I start cutting under that one, it's obviously a little bit of a ride lower down. It's another 2 or 3% into this 1.98 region. And this is pretty much going to be my last sort of dance here to remain bullish on 𝗬𝗎 before potentially some more downside. Now, the one thing that is in 𝗬𝗎's favor at the moment is, considering it hasn't done anything this weekend, we're seeing so many other tokens with completely overcooked RSIs on the 4-hour. But look at 𝗬𝗎. It's almost like it's telling me it wants to do something. It's just waiting a little bit longer. So I'm trying to hang into this thing. And for me, anything down to 1.98 is still looking okay. So I'm going to try and hold on as much as possible here on the 𝗬𝗎. I'm going to look for this bounce at 1.98. I expect this 4-hour will be reset by the time we get there, and then we're going to get some kind of move. And what remains to be seen if it's going to be some kind of divergence play or not, but that is where I'm ultimately going to be looking for a reversal. So 1.98, it's not going to be a fun ride to the downside, but hopefully we'll have cover with some of those hedge shorts, and we're going to see how it goes. And then upside for 𝗬𝗎, well, you can see we're under a descending trend at the moment, but what I was typically looking for this weekend, and at this weekend we had a trend over here, we were looking for a hard break into 2.4 where I was going to TP. So that is still my TP zone, 2.4. I'm watching that one obviously closely. If we do pump into that, it's a typical 618 as well. And guys, this chart is going to be in Chart Hackers for you guys, and you can play with it. Okay, now I'm looking for a new CoinEx trade. So this is CoinEx, one of our trading partners here, and this could be one of them that I'm going to try and hunt here. This is AIXBT reporting on Hyperliquid. Now, Hyperliquid secured 70% of on-chain perps market, $175 billion volume in March. That's pretty impressive. Whale opened a $15 million long at 11.9. The guy's $5 million unrealized profit. Nice. Okay. The protocol does 1.4 million daily buybacks. Okay. I mean, basically, the guys are still super bullish on this hype. And we've been saying, you know, the thing with these DEXs like hype, when the market wakes up, people start trading. And what happens? These DEXs makes tons of money. And they obviously do have all sorts of things involved for people that are holding the tokens and things like that. And it can get quite bullish for these tokens. So in terms of Bruce says Powell is done. Is he done? Is he done? In terms of things like Hyperliquid, like, yeah, I mean, I think we need to look for some kind of bullish entries here. So typically these things do get reversals, and you can see, I mean, we sweated in a Hyperliquid short this whole move, that whole move there. And we try to let that thing play out. And all Hyperliquid gave me during that whole short, and the short took probably about a week to play out. The whole thing, they gave a 10% move to the downside before a monster reversal. So that is pretty bullish, considering that the rest of the market did go quite a bit deeper than this hype. So I am looking for some bullish plays here on this thing. So how do we do this thing? For me, you know, looking at this oscillator, it is looking a little bit bearish. It looks like we need some kind of reset. So overall, I would say let's be bullish on Hyperliquid, but let's be smart about where we get an entry. So I'm going to track this week for you guys. I want to see where this oscillator settles at these lows. Once we get the oscillator settling, that is going to give us a trigger to start looking for longs on Hyperliquid. So I'm tracking the 4 hour specifically because the 4 hour gives us quite nice size moves on these altcoins. So where I think it could give us some kind of action, around about 15 for me is starting to make sense at first glance. I'd love to see that play out for me on Hyperliquid. So I'm going to track this for you guys. Obviously in Hackers, you'll get updates from me pretty much daily on this hype chart. And obviously on the show, make sure you're watching on Banter Plus. I'll keep you posted as to where we're going to try and long this thing. But right now for me, it's looking like 15 is going to be the target, and we're going to play it by ear. We'll see what happens when we get our reversal there, and then we'll see if we can get the next move up to about 21 for hype. Okay, so we're going to play that safe. And Bruce says not long now for rate cuts. Guys, there's announcements coming. Okay, there's going to be an announcement around the corner. We know it's coming again. Bitcoin is sitting way too tight at the moment. We know there's a big move coming out of the market. So just make sure you are not over leveraged too long, or you're not over leveraged too short, and you just wait. And once we have the direction, then we're going to know how to party. Now, here's this 𝗏. Now, is this thing really going to rinse me? Like, so let's look at 𝗏 on 2 time frames. Firstly, let's look at this thing on the daily, and let's be as objective as possible. Where can 𝗏 reasonably go in a bullish market? Okay, look at this zone, 500. Okay, this is a reasonable target. So I don't want to put on blinkers here and say, you know, this thing is definitely going to fall over and it's a definite short. We know 𝗏, based on history, look at this thing. When it wants to pump, we know this thing can pump. So understand what we are playing with. When this thing dumps, obviously, we know it can dump. Look at these red candles. Look at the green candles. Big pumps. And then you get these massive moves down, okay, on this thing. So it likes a bit of both ways. All I can say is upside. This thing can go to 500. This thing can also quite easily, and it can happen this week, it can go to 350. Okay, these are potential targets on the daily time frame. So understand in the context of the market, zooming out, you know, no matter what we feel on a short-term basis, if we zoom out and say, where are we in the context? Well, there's a possibility that 𝗏 goes 350 and 500 350 this week, I would say, is possible on this thing. But short-term, if we look at it on a short-term basis, is it possible that this thing can have some kind of breather? Now, if you look at the last time we got a bit of pumpage, look at that. We pumped up and then we printed bearish divergence on the 3 hour. Look at the chart there and look at that reversal print. Then we bled down for a couple of days and then we had a beautiful move. Look at that. They printed divergence again. And then we had a beautiful move to the upside. So what I've picked up today while I was prepping for the show is the double divergence here on the 3 hour. And we've also got it on 4 hour as well. Okay, look at that. Bearish divergence on the 4 hour. We've also got it on the 2 hour. Okay, look at that. We've got spider webs here on the 2 hour. So what does this mean for me? Okay, so it means if you look, this thing's super bullish. Okay, if you are trying to short this thing, you're using the right information, we're using the right levels. You can see I've started a small short on this tower. But obviously, in super bullish conditions, this thing can rip. Okay, now in terms of my short that I'm taking, I've highlighted here, close above this wick could be pretty bullish for this thing. It could start churning a little bit higher. So I'm not going to stick around on this tower. If it is going to pump me out, I'm expecting it to blow through 319 pretty quickly. And then it's potentially going to take us to that 350 zone. So you just got to be super careful. Make sure you're managing your stops if you want to play this game. Okay, looking for some kind of consolidation up here, a little bleed out, and then a collapse down to the bottom. And then longs for me on tower 278, 260. Those look like the reasonable zones. Now, if you're going to play this thing, look at your risk is. Okay, your risk is quite low at the moment. Okay, your risk is like 2%. Okay, you got a 2% risk here if you want to try some kind of short. Alternatively, what you can do is, okay, super bullish, bro. Alternatively, what you can do is sit back and let it play out. Okay, let that bearish divergence play out. You might find that bearish divergence plays out and tower actually keeps grinding slowly higher and higher and higher. And there's no absolute commitment yet to take a short if you're not feeling right. Okay, so I've taken the short. You can see why. I've explained why here. And look, potentially going to roll over there for us. Okay, so play this safe. You know the upside targets here on Tao, and could be a nice downside. Could be a nice downside move. Same thing with Render. Okay, these AI tokens have really pumped this weekend. Is there more in the tank for them? It's difficult to say after a big pump this weekend. So what did Render do? I mean, Render dropped. Render went 3.87 to. Let's just look at the size of this move this weekend. 15% pump on Render. Okay, nice big move there. It moved into our second zone that we spoke about on the show on Friday, and now Render's also potentially something that could come a little bit lower down. So what I would suggest here, if you are looking for some action on Render, it's difficult to give a long at a big resistance zone. For me, I like to see the pullbacks. I like to see the dips into these types of zones. So in terms of an area of interest to me on Render, 4 and 3.7 for the next long. 4 and 3.7 are starting to make sense for me for the next long on Render. So something like that or something like that sort of makes the most sense in terms of that guy. Okay, so look out, guys. AI token, super bullish. Do you want to get caught longing the top of these things if it reverses? Yeah, I don't really want to. I want to kind of lean on the side of a short. Okay, let's talk a couple of other bangers here. And one of them is Link. I've been really trying to get a big position on Link. I've been buying this up quite quickly. So I'm $125,000 long on Link now. And I've got a PEPE situation here, 65K as well, trying to get size quickly in case there is a big move coming in the market. So what I want to do is cover Link for you guys. This is obviously a banger, and I want to cover some PEPE as well in terms of where I think this can go in a bullish market. Okay, now we're talking a nice trade announcement on Monday, Tuesday. We're talking the market turning bullish again, and then we're talking alts ripping. Okay, so in terms of PEPE, I'm looking at it, number one, step one, for context. I'm looking at it on the weekly. I want to see where can this thing go in normal conditions. If this was a regular 1 hour chart or a 15-minute chart, where could this thing bounce to? And looking at this as objectively as possible, that's a big zone for me at 108 on PEPE. 108 looks like a nice big upside target here for PEPE. And what does that mean in terms of distance? Well, we could easily get something about 40% here to the upside in PEPE, and that is typically a 236 fib. And that is still a super bearish fib for us in terms of bounce zones, but it's a highly obtainable fib that we can bounce to. So 107, 108 making sense to me as a potential upside stretch on PEPE. Now, how do we catch an entry on this thing? How do we get a nice little vibe going here? So for me, the big level that I want you guys to watch at the moment for PEPE is 699. 699, that's horizontal support, 382. We've got 50-day MA just above that as well. So that is going to be the big one. So it might take a couple of cracks. If we do get a bleed out here on the market, I want to see this 699 hold on PEPE, and that could give us some kind of big move into this type of region here, that 1075. Okay, so there's potentially some big targets, but the step one, let's hold 699. Now, in terms of degen levels, if you're looking for a slightly higher risk level because you are leverage trading and things like that, what I can say is, and I was telling chart hackers earlier today when I was prepping for the show, I dropped a couple of charts in there, and I don't love the look of this oscillator, but I don't hate it yet. It's not like it's printing me tons of divergence here and screaming that it wants to fall over. Right now, it's just printed its first reversal print. So there is a chance that this thing can get a little bit of momentum. And if you want to play the degen game, your current risk to the 50-day MA is about 5%. Your risk to the lows is about 4%, give or take. Now, obviously, remember, if there's a market meltdown now on Asia Open and we get a false move or whatever to the downside, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the altcoins. So in terms of big levels, it's 6996. In terms of degen levels, 724 and 715. That could be a potential zone that you want to use as your support in case the market gives us a very gentle pullback or a very calm dip before there is a move to the upside. So remember, that's the big one I want. And if we can get it, 724, 715, and then the big one at 699 for me, making the most sense in terms of PEPE potentially rocketing here for us. If we have, if we're not bullish, we're gonna be bullish.
I'm bullish as soon as we get an announcement. That's what I'm waiting on. News controls the markets at the moment. We get any kind of good news. China's not going to happen anytime soon. They're not even at the table talking yet. But if we get some of these other bigger countries, Japan's confirmed there's a good deal, and this country, that country, time to get bullish as soon as we see some of those nice trade agreements coming out.
Okay. Bullish.
Could be tomorrow. You never know.
Could be tomorrow. Mark says he feels very liquid in securitized funds. What the fuck is he talking about? Who else is in the chat here? Let's see. Alex is here in the house, okay? And Matt, I agree with Matt. 100%. Fartcoin is the future. We need a fart ETF, basically. And Two Big Paws says XRP is ripping. James is XRP ripping. Nice. Nice. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Shesmu says Tower is looking great. Guys, it's a problem. I mean, it looks great on the daily. That 500 level looks proper on that thing. And Chamburn says he's going to short Sui. Look, if Sui starts losing some levels there, it's potentially a short, guys. It really is. And that's the thing could dump. So Chris says bull run is over, according to Chris. And Theeporn says Easter dump. Wow. And what else we got here? Who else is in the chats? What are you guys doing here? Zolani's here. He's looking for solid 140. Yes, sir.
XRP is ripping on the 1 minute chart. Got to get up to at least a 15-minute or something. You're getting my hopes up. It's at $2.
Ren says, when is the short for Brett? That's also, guys, I mean, there's a couple of these meme coins waking up. WIF has also been a little bit of a banger. I mean, I've got a little bit of a WIF party going on here as well. Look at this thing. A little bit of a banger, okay? A little bit of a dark horse here if we do get some energy on this thing. And it could be time to start teeing up some targets on some of these meme coins. Okay, let's talk Link. Why am I trying to get stuck into Link? So we know, well, look at this chart. Okay, look at this chart on the 3-day. We've picked up, obviously, I brought this to you guys last week. Lots of bullish divergence on the 3 days, on the 3-day charts for us across the board on all the altcoins. Now, we know Link is it's a good performer in a bullish market, and it always seems to spark some kind of narrative or some kind of run, whether it's RWA or DeFi. Link seems to sort of front run these things. And we've noticed today, Link is also outperforming a little bit, just slowly grinding higher and higher. And it might be something we want to pay attention to. So the reason I'm trying to build this thing on Link at the moment is because it's pushing into the 50-day MA. And I suspect once Link starts blowing through this 50-day moving average, sitting ahead here at 13.7, we're going to have quite a big ride available on this thing to about 17, which is going to be, it's going to be my target, that 200-day MA. We're going to look for about a 28, 29% move on Link. So what needs to happen first, obviously, guys, as you can see, very clear as day. We got a weekly or 3-day downtrend in the way. We've got the 50-day MA in the way. So I've been trying to build this Link position. When we break that 50-day MA, I want to be ahead of the game so that I can increase the size quite quickly, because I'm expecting a fast move on Link to the 200-day MA if we do get that break. So lots of work to do. If you're looking for a new entry on Link, 13.7 is big resistance. It's the 50-day moving average. If we pump into that today, for example, you could get a monster rejection on this thing. So if you want to take on risk, just understand what you are playing in. This is a big danger zone here. For me, I've been building this slowly. If we do pop that zone, guys, I'm looking for a nice strong move into that 17 zone for me on Link. So that is the game plan. Right now, it's under this area. And what I would suggest, if you're trying to build a position, and it doesn't always have to happen in your first go. If you're taking a trade, for example, you don't have to ape that full size. Like you can see that Link position is $120,000. It never starts out that way. It starts out a lot smaller, and then you can ramp it up when you start breaking through key levels. Now, remember, I teach that in workshop number 2 on my accelerator course, and I talk about it a lot in Chart Hackers as well. And we'll be discussing some of this stuff directly afterwards. On a Sunday, I do a Chart Hacker Zoom session with DJ and Dave, and we tee up the week for everyone. So we're jumping into that directly after the show. So if you want to join a Chart Hackers private Zoom, sign up now. We're going at 9 o'clock. We are going to be covering that thing. And then let's take a look at the accelerator course. This is it, guys. My workshop number 1 is tomorrow, okay? 19 hours away. I'm going to be covering a lot of the stuff you are learning in the course. So make sure you have signed up. Come join me at my workshop. There's obviously limited seats available here for you guys. So make sure you jump in and you spot me there at the workshop, and I'll cover you guys with a little bit of alpha there. Okay. Right. I'm going to wrap it up. So you got some setups here. You get my basic sentiment here. I'm bullish on these altcoins, subject to some kind of higher low, maybe a little dip here in the markets, and then maybe quite a big week ahead for us in terms of positive news coming out of the States. Let's hold thumbs, obviously, for that. Mr. 𝗵𝗱𝗟, thank you, sir. We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, guys, it's Easter Monday, and I'm back on tomorrow, Banter Plus. Okay, so I'll see you guys there on Banter Plus tomorrow. Catch you later.